Basically, welcome to today's webinar, which is the second in a weekly series which Business North Harbour is providing, covering topics based upon the feedback received from members in our recent Business Resilience Survey. My name's Kevin O'Leary. I'm General Manager at Business North Harbour, and on behalf of the organisation, as I say, I'm delighted to welcome you all today. Before we move on to the topics in hand, just need to thank our sponsors. So our gold sponsors: North Shore Golf Club, Waste Management, Pathfinder Solutions, Driveline, Mark Group, Montsellier Law, Dale Carnegie, Benefits, Ramada Suites of Wyndham Albany, and Spark Business Hub Auckland North. We also have three silver sponsors: Phone Plus, Davenport Law, and Turner Hopkins. And we'd also like to acknowledge our Women in Business sponsor, Eclipse Recruitment. Without their support, there's a lot of things we just simply wouldn't be able to do as an organisation. So again, we're really delighted to welcome those sponsors and thank them for their input into our organisation. So moving on to today's webinar, we're looking at business strategy and planning and business continuity or sustainability. In these uncertain times, many business owners are struggling with short and long-term planning for a number of reasons, including changes in legislation, supply chain issues, or changes in the needs or capability and capacity of customers or suppliers. Business owners are also facing many financial challenges, including cash flow, inflation, and increasing operating costs, such as the imminent minimum wage increase. Unfortunately, these issues very often leave people unsure as to what they should do or who they should talk to. Our guest presenter today is Richard Osborne from Pathfinder Solutions. Richard is a chartered accountant and advisor with extensive real-world business and commercial experience. A former CFO and business leader across multiple disciplines, including finance, IT, and operations, Richard brings invaluable practical advice and strategies that go far beyond the numbers. Together with his genuine interest in helping others find success, people value the depth of Richard's experience and knowledge, which enables them to explore strategies, solutions, and options through many different lenses. Before I hand over to Richard, just a quick word about the format of today's session. Richard will present some information for around 30 minutes. But you don't have to wait until the end of the session to ask questions. If you have a question, please put it in the Q&A, which you should be able to see on your screens, and I'll let Richard know, and he'll try and answer them as we go along. So it becomes more of a discussion rather than just a presentation with Q&A at the end. So on that note, without any further ado, I'd like to hand over and welcome to Richard Osborne.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That's nicer words than my mother said to me in the last few years. So thank you very much for the nice introduction. It is hard without eye contact. I do like being able to look people in the eye around the room. But at the moment, all I can see is Kevin, so I'll just make through with him. It's part of what we call the new normal. So I'm trying to make this presentation webinar not quite like a presentation, so the interaction and actually interruptions are welcome.
Richard, sorry, your audio is not very strong. Is there a chance you can sit closer to the speaker? It's difficult to hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, is that better? Well, can I turn it
Slightly?
I think of how I can just make it a bit louder. Should be coming through the buds. Hang on. Okay, is that any better? Just talk
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Right, so we'll make this as educational and informative as I can. It won't be all about the numbers because it's not always. The numbers, whilst I'm an accountant, I may get home drawn and quartered for saying it. there are soft skills required in doing the jobs that as business owners you are doing. A quick piece of housekeeping, throw in our normal disclaimer, which is information is educational, but it's general in nature, and there's no substitute for tailored advice. So I make no apologies for it as reasonably generic. If you want to have a conversation about anything that's specific, then feel free to contact me later. Okay. So, to start off with a little bit of a thought, if you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. So, words written about 230 years ago, but still relevant. The other thing that I think about is the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. So you will need to be open to some of the concepts that we're going to talk about. So challenges, and look, there are plenty of challenges at the moment. And look, the last year has been really hard, last 2 years. For some of you, this is all about actually hanging on and whether your business will actually survive. So the purpose of this is to give your business the best chance of survival and growth. Because the types of challenges you'll be seeing are, what is the new break even for sales? HR challenges that you may be facing. What government support is available? How can you get better deals with suppliers? And even how do you prepare for another lockdown, even though I don't think I don't have another one, but I'm not the government. So, yep. Will my business survive? It is the number one question for you to think about. What will my cash flow look like? All of those things are questions on the table. But in terms of change, because one of the things that you will have to be thinking about is change and how you will drive that as a leader and business owner. So this is a very powerful change model. It's just the stages that you will need to work through with yourself, with your business partners, with your team. And it is a very useful model to draw up a little matrix, just work out, go through the stages of awareness of the need to change, the desire to change. Is, do you need to? Are you being forced to? Or you just want something different? Knowledge of how you do it, the ability to do it, and then reinforcing the change behavior to make sure that people don't go back to what they were doing before. And on that, just the last mindset is the results mindset, where we talk about you have to decide what you're going to do, the 3 or 4, 5 goals that you're going to hit. You have to then put in place an action plan. Who's going to do it, by when? And then you need accountability to make sure that things actually get done. And those 3 components equal the ability to deliver results. Okay, one of the key messages from today is focus on what you can control. And sometimes that's difficult because there are a lot of things happening at the moment for you as business owners which you're not in control of. But the things that you can do is you can work on the business. And I'll talk about what on actually means. You can look at finance, profitability and cash flow, which is the major focus of this webinar. Product, service, marketing and comms, HR are really separate topics. So you need to be very clear on your focus, what you can control, and what will have the greatest impact on your results. Now, you also need to be very proactive, especially around the banks and the IRB. What I mean by that is you need to be looking at your budget, you need to be looking at your cash flow. If you're going to be short on your cash flow, you need to be talking to the bank early. Banks at the moment are really, really slow and they're really quite difficult. The triple CFA, that legislation, whilst it may be, they're talking about repealing it, that hasn't been done yet. So banks at the moment are looking for excuses to say no. So you need to go to them prepared with a plan. You need to go to them with a cash flow, which will explain how they're going to get their money back. You can't ring up at the start of the week and go, I can't make payroll this week. However, with the IRB, they're almost the opposite of banks at the moment. It seems ever since COVID hit, they've had a message from on high which says, actually be nice. We have clients who have 24 months scheme of arrangements, no interest. They will allow you to, for tax or GST, very difficult to PAYE on arrangement. The IRD, if you approach them nicely, will actually enter into schemes of arrangement. The other thing that you need to be looking at, because cash is king and the key to your survival, is tax pooling. Now, sorry, Kevin, are you?
No.
So, tax pooling, for those of you that don't know what that is, they are third parties that will actually, you can borrow money and they will pay tax for you, and it's about half the cost of the IRD interest. It enables your tax to be paid on time. You will pay interest to them. As your cash flow improves, you can top back up. But it is something, it is another option if you are short of cash. The other thing is there are a number of things that the government have put in place. They've just recently, for instance, at the start of this week, increased the amount of the small business cash flow scheme loan amount. So if you've already taken advantage of that, you have the ability to actually request a top-up. If you're not aware of what that is, it is the ability to get a loan from the IRD. The repayments have been pushed out to 2025. There is no interest cost unless you don't pay it back in time. So, that's a really positive thing for your cash flow. The other thing is if you've got staff that are not there because of COVID, the COVID leave scheme is open. You can apply for up to $600 for a full-time employee, and they've re-released the wage subsidy. The criteria, they keep changing, so if initially you looked at that and you didn't make it, it is worth having another look at. The only thing I would counsel you over that is to ensure that you keep a spreadsheet or something of the justification for the numbers. And the very, very, I'd say, rare, or the risk that they will come and ask you to justify it, we haven't seen a lot of that as yet.
Richard, is it also worth possibly talking to ACC around provisional levies or anything like that? Have you had any experience of some clients doing that?
We have any of the government departments at the moment are actually being very accommodating. At Pathfinder, we very much work on the basis of you don't ask, you don't get. And
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, we'll touch on that later with some other options, around landlords, etc.
Thank you. Just before you go on, mate, there is a little bit of echoing in the background. So anyone attending the webinar, if you would please make sure that you're on mute, just so it's easier for everyone to continue to hear Richard. Thank you.
Okay, we touched briefly on the concept of working on the business. This is when you as a business owner take time out of the day-to-day operations. It's so easy to get bogged down, telephone rings, you've got your short staff, etc. But without a plan and spending time putting that together, you won't get to what you want to achieve. So you need to set a plan, you need to review it, and you need to update it regularly. And this is where bits of leadership come in, because there are some key habits as a leader that you need to get across. You need to be spending time working on the business, you need to have a plan, and you need to keep it up to date. You also need to take time outside of the business for your own well-being. You know, we hear some real horror stories of the hours people are working, and I know that's what sometimes we need to do. But you also sometimes, as people say, you need to put your own oxygen mask on first. You're no use to anybody if you hit the wall. You also need to stay positive and stay above the line. So again, focusing on the stuff you can control. The stuff you can't control, you just have to deal with when it happens. You need to be measuring the right things and looking at the numbers and being right across your cash flow. We have a lot of clients that we put on weekly cash flows. And if you're really in trouble, you need to be doing a daily cash flow. Briefly want to touch on the concept of the 10 hats, because in a business, somebody needs to be wearing all of these hats. All hats must have an owner. Now, some of these hats can be outsourced or may only take a few hours or a a week or a month. For instance, at Pathfinder, we outsource HR. So whilst I am the HR manager, we outsource to my HR. So all the documentation, job descriptions, policies and procedures, they're all kept up to date. It's just one less thing that we need to worry about, so we can concentrate on the things that we need to focus on. And so do you, because you can't leave any of those, you can't have any of those hats without an owner. Okay. The reason why you're all here, let's talk about the finance side of things, which is finance, profitability, and cash flow. And it's important that we look at them in that order. So, first step in improving your cash flow and reducing your stress and the strain on the business is to make sure that you have your personal budget under control. So, what different spending habits have you started during lockdown? What do you need to carry on? What things have you managed to cut out that you can continue to cut out? What costs at home can you eliminate? We have a great personal budgeting template. If any of you are interested, that's free of charge. We can send it out to you. Then you need to update your business budget. Now, that is generally a more complicated exercise, and will be an iterative process that you'll need to constantly review and update. So looking and drilling down into cash flow and what we call the 7 causes of poor cash flow. First one is accounts receivable. Are you collecting all your old debtors, remembering that cash is king? Not very good at it, outsource it. Again, at Pathfinder, we outsource data collection. It's just something that we're not good at, and so we give it to the experts. But also, look at your debtors ledger and go, if you could reduce your debtors days by 10 working days, how much money would that add to your bank account? Accounts payable. What expenditure what expenditure can you cut back on? Can you talk to some of your suppliers about terms? Now, a year or two ago, inventory, or even I suppose 6 months ago, we would have said, you know, for a start, look at all your obsolete stock. If it's not a core part of your business, can you just get rid of it? Can you just generate the cash? And you know, how can you reduce your stock holding? A lot harder at the moment with supply chain issues. Yeah, it's just how much are you holding in stock that you don't need to. I spent a lot of time in manufacturing, and I would go into a lot of workshops and everything. And you know what? I would look at the top shelf. I would look at stuff that was covered in dust and go, why is that there? What can you get for it? You know, it's somebody's pet project, or someday someone will walk in the door and go, I need
Richard,
that.
excuse me, can I interrupt? There's a lot of background noise and people are having trouble hearing. They're going to have to, they're saying they're going to leave because they just can't hear what you're saying. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to cut down on part of the background noise. Is that better? Sorry, is that any better?
Yes, it's much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, where are we? Inventory process. Inappropriate debt or capital structure. Again, this is talking to the bank about, have you got short-term debt that you could turn into long-term debt? Are you sitting on investments that you could realize now for cash, or even fixed assets that you could generate some cash from? Are your overheads too high? Overheads are hard to change, but in this current environment, the question that I like asking clients is your operating space too large? Could you rent out some of the space that you're currently paying for in rent? If you can't downsize, can you bring someone in who's complementary? That may actually help you with sales and getting new customers. And my favorite is your margins too low. So what are you doing to increase your margins? Your manufacturing, can you reduce rework and wastage? Do you measure team productivity? Or can you just increase prices? And I've got a couple of slides on that later. And what do you need? If your sales dropped off, do you need to find ways of increasing sales? We've looked at cash flow, but now we really need to look at how can you grow your business? Will eventually flow into cash flow. So we talk about the 7 ways. First one is to increase customer retention. So what can you do to surprise and delight your customers so they will keep coming back? Can you generate more leads? Or just attract more, prospective customers? What are you doing in that space? Increase customer conversion rate. So when you've generated customers your way, what are you doing about making sure you convert them? Do you actually measure customer conversion? Do you find out why clients haven't come on board? And, do you have sales scripts? Sometimes the person that answers the phone is actually the most important salesperson in the business. Can you increase transaction value? So can you sell more to existing clients? What else can you offer them? What else can you sell them that they're not currently buying from you? Can you get them to buy from you more frequently? A good example here is mechanics, and you're getting a service. If I don't get my car serviced every 6 months, that's effectively a lost sale. So what are you doing about proactively making sure your customers are buying from you more often? Next one, reduce cost of sales. So this is all about wastage, increasing productivity, all those sorts of things. What is your plan around that? And finally, how can you reduce your overheads? And we've kind of looked at that under the causes of poor cash flow. Now, I don't expect you to do everything on that list, but what I'd expect you to do is look at it and go, what are those things can you do for your business? What will give you the biggest bang for your buck? And as I like to call it, what low-hanging fruit out there? What can you do immediately that will have an impact on your profitability and therefore onto your bottom line? Next, very importantly, do you know where you make your money? Know which customers you make money on and which customers you lose money on? Do you know what products you make the most money on and which ones are almost lost leaders or you need to reprice? We call that exercise understanding customer profitability and product profitability, slice and dicing. And if you don't understand that basic information, you don't need a complex costing system, but you do need some science around that. And price increases. Price increases are expected at the moment. We are all being bombarded by price increases. There's minimum wage, which is going up in about a week's time. There's all the increased costs coming with supply chain, shipping costs, transport costs with petrol. Interest rates are going up. Trying to get good staff and not just the minimum wage, but what we have to pay to get good staff now. All these things are actually the new normal. So, when did you last increase your prices? Because it's almost to the point where if you're not increasing your prices, people are going, you've been charging us too much. On that note, I'd like to look at this. This is the impact of a price reduction, discounting, or in this concept, I'd like to talk to you the concept of your prices increasing. So here, if you're on a 30% gross margin and your prices go down by 10%, you would have to sell 50% more. That's an awful lot of extra sales just to stay in the same place. However, if we turn that on its head and look at the impact of a price increase, 30% gross margin, you can increase your prices by 10%. And you could afford to lose 25% of your sales and you would still make the same profit. We all know in this day and age, you're not going to lose 25% of your sales. And the sales that you do lose will probably be the very price sensitive people that drive your sales and your sales staff and your team nuts. So they will go and just be a pain somewhere else. Price increases are the low hanging fruit. And it's no longer do we have our clients doing a yearly price increase. You need to be doing it far more often than that. Okay, just briefly on HR, if you think about your business as a bus, you are the driver and your team members are passengers. You need to work out whether you've got the right people on the bus and whether you actually need to let some of your team off at the next stop. You need to look at if your sales are decreasing, you need to make sure that your staffing is in line with that. You need to be constantly reviewing your HR, your staff numbers, your productivity. If your productivity is dropping, then one of the things is you may have excess resources. You need to be looking at what you can do around that. This is a bit of detail, but I just want to show you, this is the sort of plan that we do with our clients. One is a business recovery plan. However, you may need just a standard business plan or a marketing plan. A summary of key challenges, a SWOT analysis, KPIs, important habits, business owners, budget, cash flow, a budget with break even, the ability to split that out over quarters. And then this is the real important piece. Here is the action plan. What do you need to do in the next year? What are the 90-day goals? What are the plans to by when? Each of the major departments. And that is the level of detail that you should have in a plan, and that will give you the accountability. Just about enough of me talking. Cutting thought. Most successful people see adversity not as a stumbling block, but as a stepping stone to greatness. Okay, do we have any questions?
There's nothing in there at the moment, Richard, but again, just let people know that in the Q&A, your contact details are all there now. And if people do have any burning issues that they want to discuss or on a personal level, then please feel free to contact Richard directly using those details. Richard, is the one sort of silver bullet from all of that for attendees today? I mean, you've spoken a lot, thankfully, or thanks to you, on the importance of cash flow and finance and being proactive. I'm guessing that within businesses as well, the communications that you're talking about, would you suggest to business owners that they extend a lot of those communications internally as well to members of the team and their staff?
Well, if a business owner is under stress and you've got uncertainty, then that will feed into the team. The team will see that, and that is one of the things about having a plan and actually sharing it. Now, I do not advocate sharing the total plan with everybody, but letting the team know you have a plan and that the business, the future and is secure is really important, because you need your team firing. You don't need them. It's the old Maslow's theory of hierarchy. People who are uncertain about the future really stretch themselves because they are in survival mode, and you need your team firing on all cylinders at the moment. So, yep, I mean, we're about to share our plan with the Pathfinder team as soon as we get over the silly season, the end of March. But yeah, we need to take them on the journey because we need them. And you know, business owners, you need your team on board. It's pretty hard to over communicate at the moment because everybody is facing uncertainty, and the more certainty that you can give your team, the more you will be seen as a leader, and the better off, they will perform their jobs better when they have security and safety of knowing that you have it under control.
Terrific, thanks, Richard. Again, just looking, there's nothing else coming through at the moment. So again, from our perspective, thanks, Richard, for those insights and some really useful advice. The people on the webinar, I do apologise if some of the information you missed due to those sort of technical hitches around Richard's audio. But hopefully there's enough information there for you to take away and go and act upon. And we will publish the presentation and this whole webinar online over the next few days with some edits. So again, the information will be readily available for you. So just moving forward or looking forward, next Wednesday we have Lisa Hill from Eclipse Recruitment, who's actually on today's webinar. And Lisa's going to offer some advice around recruitment, which again is a hot topic for many business owners at the moment, on how and where do they find staff, and what's best strategies of retaining staff as well. So without any further ado, Richard, thanks ever so much for your input today. Again, as I've said, if people want to contact you direct, I know you'll be more than happy to have those conversations. To the people on the call, some of you may now have to go away and take some difficult decisions and actions back to your businesses. And I think the key message from Richard is you have to be proactive. You simply can't bury your head in the sand and hope it's all going to improve and go away without your interventions. So hopefully you'll all have gained something from today's webinar. We wish you every success and look forward to seeing many more of you, or some of you again next week when Lisa takes us through recruitment. Thank you one and all, and I'll now finish the webinar. Thanks and farewell.